Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Justina and here I like to make, create, and inspire fun art things with you through my DIYs. So as you may have seen by clicking on today's video, I have a brand new DIY that is 4 feet tall using Dollar Tree items, and I am super excited to share it with you. But before we get started, if you are new here and you haven't yet subscribed, I hope you do that today. All you have to do is click on that big red subscribe button down below. It is totally free, but don't forget to click on the bell notification so that YouTube can always notify you every time I upload a new video. Plus, we would love to have you here, part of our virtual art family. If you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for being here and clicking on today's video. I really do appreciate each and every one of you taking the time and spending it with me creating this DIY. But don't forget to do all of the YouTube things down below, which is like, comment, and share it to at least one friend. It does really help out my channel. Now, with all that being said, let's just jump right into it and let's art today. So for this DIY, all of the material is pretty much at Dollar Tree right now. Since it is springtime, they have a variety of flower pots, but I found this one that looks like terracotta pots, and I grabbed 4 of them. They are $1.25 and they are a pretty large size. First thing I did was to remove all of the labels from my pots, and then I want to paint it with my Waverly chalk paint in the color Snow White. Now you can definitely take this outside and spray paint it, but on this particular day it was really rainy and cold and my spray paint wouldn't have made it onto this pot at all, so I am just going to paint it, and I do give everything a nice thick coat, and then I repeat this process for the remainder 3 flower pots. Now as you see at the end of my flower pot, there are holes that I made, but I do not use them, but you can definitely substitute this later on for actual flowers if you would like to. Now that I have my flower pot covered, I need to make a handle for, now it's going to become a teacup, and to do so I am using a pool noodle. Now this is just a leftover piece of a pool noodle that I just had in my crafting stash, and I'm cutting it very thin using my X-Acto knife. As you see here, it's a very thin piece, but it's very flexible and pliable. That way we can make the handle of our little teapot. I am just going to place it right on top of my pot and keep playing with it until I get the desired look that I'm going for. I do have to cut the ends of it at an angle, that way it sits nice and flush up against the flower pot and it can adhere down when we add our glue. After I had the cuts made where I needed them, it is now time to adhere the handle to the pot, and to do so I am using hot glue. Now if you use hot glue on the high setting, it will burn a hole through the pool noodle, so you want to use a low setting hot glue gun. That is what I did. I added a little bit to the end, pressed down, and then I'm using some painter's tape to hold it into place until it is completely dry. Now you can always change your glue to fit your needs if you want to use super glue or E6000. However, the hot glue worked just fine. Now as you saw, I just bended the pool noodle until I got the desired look of a cup handle, and I absolutely loved how it turned out. Once again, I'm just adding a little bit of tape until it completely dried. I did the exact same thing for the remainder 3 cups, and this is how it looks. I did pull on the handle and made sure that it didn't just pop off, and I did add more glue around the edges just as needed, just to make sure everything was adhered down. Now it's time to decorate my cups, but I am going to paint them in all different colors. But with this one, I first went in with my Waverly chalk paint in the color yellow, and I just made sure to give it a nice thick coat. After my paint had time to dry, I then went in with a popsicle stick and some caulk. I really wanted to cover my handle, that way you don't see the pool noodle, but also make it seem like it was seamless with our flower pot, which is now our cup. And I did this a couple different ways, but the best way that I found out had to be using the popsicle stick and the caulk and spreading it out evenly and as smoothly as possible. This is how it looks after I had all of it on to the handle, and it turned out perfectly. Now, the reason I use caulk is because I needed something to add paint on top of, and you can do that with caulk. So I then waited for it to completely dry, and then I'm going to add some paint right over it. I am using my Folk Art Home Decor chalk paint in the color lavender, but I do change that later on. After I have my handle painted, I then moved on to actually painting the pot. Now I wanted each pot to be different and unique, so for this one I'm adding a bunch of polka dots in this darker purple, which I absolutely love. So then I changed my handle into that same purple that I'm using for the dots. After I have my dots all painted on, I then went in with a Posca paint marker and I started outlining all of those circles that I made, and then adding little dashes just to make it a little bit more fun and cartoony like. Then I thought it wasn't enough, so I added some more black dots, and then I added some of these squiggle lines because I thought they were fun also. After I was done, I did set that off to the side so it can completely dry, and then I can start working on our other pots. Like I mentioned before, I wanted each pot to be completely different. So for this one, I took a ruler and my pencil and I started making these vertical lines up and down the pot. Once I was done making my vertical lines, I then flipped it over and started making horizontal lines to make little boxes. I really tried to make them as even as possible, but since it's on a curvature, it was kind of hard, but they did turn out pretty good. Now, after I have my boxes, this is now going to become a checkered cup. So to help me figure out which boxes to actually color in, I take my pencil and I make all X's in the ones that I'm going to paint over, as you see here. It's just so that I don't get confused and paint the wrong one. Next, I'm taking some black acrylic paint and I'm going to paint in all of the boxes that have the X's in them. And since this is acrylic paint and not a chalk paint, I do have to do a couple of coats to make sure that everything is nice and covered. Once I was done painting all of my boxes, I then needed it to dry a little bit before I can paint the handle black as well, and I do have to give that a couple of coats. Then I will set that to the side. Moving right into our next cup. I was gonna say pot, but it is a cup. I'm going in with my Folk Art Home Decor chalk paint in this lovely blue color. It is absolutely gorgeous, and as you see here, I took a 1-inch brush and I'm just painting these stripes on them. I try to be even as possible as much as I can, and I kind of like that they're not exactly straight because it adds to the whimsical effect that I'm going for. But after I have the stripes on, I do wait for it to dry so that I can go in with my Posca paint marker and start outlining the edges. This will help give it, once again, that whimsical look and just give it more detail overall. But remember, you can paint your cups however you like to. Now, I got the inspiration, if you have been watching my channel, from a DIY that I just did recently with Dollar Tree's tea set, but it was the miniature sizes, and I really wanted to make a large one, and one of my subscribers actually commented that I should make a larger version, so that is what I'm doing today. If you haven't seen it, I'll make sure to link it down below. Now, as you see here, I'm adding more lines into our little blue sections just to add more detail to this cup. For our next cup, I am going in with my Folk Art Home Decor chalk paint in the color lilac, and I do give it a nice generous coat. But after I have the layered on, I do have to wait for it to completely dry so that I can go over it with this really bright pink. But this one is just an acrylic paint, so it's very transparent, so I do have to do a couple of coats to make it really opaque. And then I'm going to make these little stripes all the way down it as well, but instead of vertical, they're going to be horizontal stripes. I really wanted this pot or cup to look like the Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland. If you haven't been following me, for spring, a lot of my DIYs is going to be Alice in Wonderland theme. That's because I really enjoy it, and a lot of you voted yes on it, so that is what I'm doing. After I had my stripes on, I am going to paint the handle in that same pink color. After everything was completely dry, once again, I'm going in with my Posca paint markers and I'm going to outline the stripes that I made and add more stripes stripes in those stripes with that Posca paint marker once again, just to add a little bit more detail. Now that I am done with my cups, it is now time to make a teapot, and I'm going to make mine out of a Halloween bucket and a watering can that I had in my house for a while that we barely used. Now I wanted to use the spout from the watering can and the handle from the watering can and add it to my Halloween bucket, but you can always just buy a watering can from Dollar Tree to skip this step. But I really wanted my teapot to have a round, unique style, so I am doing it this way. Now, to remove the spout from my watering can, I am using a wood burning tool with the knife that it comes with. Now, remember, if you do it exactly how I am, take all the safety precautions as necessary. My window is open so that the fumes are going out the window, and have my fan on. Plus, I am going really slow so that I don't injure myself. As you see there, it does cut through the plastic really good, and I am going to continue doing that for the handle also. After I have the handle and the spout removed, I will then place that pot over, or that watering bucket over to the side. I will use it in a DIY one day, so I will save that so that I don't be wasteful. And then here is me just trying to place it onto our little Halloween bucket to get an idea of where I need to place everything. Once I have that idea, I then took a Sharpie marker and started marking out the placement where I need to put that. That way I can put that to the side and then work on our spout. The first thing I needed to do was take some floral foam and cut it down to size, because I need to place that inside of the spout. This will come in handy later when I need to add something inside of the spout to hold up our teapot. Then I will add hot glue all around it to make sure it is nice and secured in there. To attach the spout to our bucket, I am going to use E6000. This is a really strong super glue, and I'm adding that all to the edges of our spout. I do use a popsicle stick to make sure that I can place it where I want it so it's not a bunch of it spilling over. And then I take some hot glue and add a huge dollop to the center of it. The hot glue is just going to hold it into place for right now until the E6000 completely dries and adheres it really good up against both the spout and the pot. Then after that was dry, I took my hot glue gun and added more hot glue onto the edges so everything was nice and secure. I did the exact same thing for the handle for our teapot, and I did add some floral foam inside of that handle as well. That will give me a working surface to put my hot glue so that I can attach it down to our now teapot, which is super adorable. I just hold it into place until it fully dries, and then I can add more hot glue around the edges once again so that everything is nicely attached. After the glue had time to completely dry, here is now our teapot, which is super adorable. I just needed to remove the handle, and to do so I'm just using a pair of scissors and cutting that right off. Then I needed a lid for our teapot. I had this container from Dollar Tree around Christmas time, and the lid from that container fits pretty much perfectly inside the lid of our teapot, and I just thought that was really unique. Then I took a ornament out of my crafting stash. It had a little bit of hot glue because I used it for something else, and I am placing that on the top of our lid so it just gives it another unique look. Then I'm going to take it outside and use my Rust-Oleum flat spray paint in the color white, and I do give it a couple of coats. Now, even though this day was really cold, the sun was out and it was a little bit windy, so it did help it dry nicely. To also help with the drying process, I did let this fully cure overnight, and then the next day I started painting it. I am going in with black acrylic paint, and I'm painting the spout and the handle with that black acrylic paint. I wasn't too sure on how I was going to paint the teapot, but after I started painting the spout and the handle with the black acrylic paint, I just figured I'd rather just use the lines that are already on our teapot and fill every other one with a black and white stripe. So I'm just filling in every other one with the black acrylic paint, and once again I did have to give this a couple of coats for it to really be opaque. Now for my lid, I did the exact same thing, except for I made the stripes going in all different directions. That way it was matching, but it wasn't quite exactly the same, just to make it a little bit different. I did place that to the side to completely dry. Now I purchased these plastic plates from Dollar Tree. 4 come in a pack for $1.25. Now I do want to disclose these plates are super thin and really not sturdy whatsoever, but for this project it is perfect. I am going to spray paint my plastic plates in these spray paint colors. For this day it was really sunny, so the spray paint worked perfectly, and I gave them a unique color, plus I added some little misting of the other colors right on top. I didn't go too much into detail with the plates because you won't really be able to see them at the end. Here is our little tea set after everything had time to completely dry, and you can just be finished like this. Add a little plant to each one of them and then display them around your yard or in your front porch. However, I wanted mine to stack up like I did with my miniature ones. Now this was a trial and error for me. I really had to work with it to really figure out what was the best solution for me. However, you can always change it to fit your needs and to be a little bit more secure. However, mine is holding up pretty nicely, and I don't intend to put it out in really bad weather or even outside, to be honest with you. So to stack them, I wanted to use a dowel to make sure that it was a little bit more structural, and to place the dowel in my teacups, I needed to make holes in them. And as you see here, once again I am using my wood burning tool and cutting out a little hole just enough so that the dowel can fit in there. And I will continue doing that for all of my cups and 3 of my plates. Now the best way that I figured out how to do it is to really start off by figuring out how you want to stack your cups, like which one is going to be the bottom and which one is going to be the top. After you figure that out, you want to place your dowel into your cup that is on the bottom, and then figure out which plate is going to go on top of it, and then just make sure that it is stacked correctly, and then you make a little mark on the bottom of it. That way you can cut it out, once again using a wood burning tool or an X-Acto knife, whatever you feel comfortable with. As you see here, I am adding my hole into my plate now, and they do burn really quickly, so just be very careful if you decide that you're going to burn that plate, and make sure you use all the protection wear that you need to wear. Now, as you see here, I just used an X-Acto knife to push down that plastic because it was extremely hot. Then I placed it back on the dowel rod. Now, to attach everything down to the bottom plate, I am using floral foam. This is where I said before that if you need to change it up to make it more secure for you, you can do so, but this has worked for me. So I place the dowel right into that floral foam, add more hot glue to the edges, and then I push my cup all the way down so everything is attached. Then I will continue adding my plates and my cups all the way up the dowel rod and adding hot glue wherever it is needed. This project does take a little bit of time and some patience because you need to wait for the glue to completely dry. For my last cup, I added the hole right into the center because I wanted this cup to be sitting straight up, and then once again I added my hot glue. Now to attach our teapot to our teacup set, you're going to need a really thick wire. I found a wire hanger in our house, so I just bent that all onto itself so that I can stick it into the spout. Once I felt that it was all the way pushed through the floral foam that is inside of it, I'm going to add some hot glue to the very edge of it, really flooding it inside so that everything is nice and secure into the spout. Now for the other side of our wire, we're going to attach that to the dowel that is in our last teacup at the top. Now you really want to make sure that you bend it in a way so it looks like the teapot is going to pour itself into the cup, and this does take a little bit of finagling and making sure the wire is in the correct position. Now to attach the wire to the dowel, I am using some zip ties at first, and then I will also use some tape and some hot glue to make sure that it's really secure in our teacup. Now for the bottom, you're going to need some kind of weight to make sure that this is nice and sturdy at the bottom. I had some leftover concrete that I just placed in a Ziploc baggie with a little bit of water. That way when it cures, it is nice and solid at the bottom, and I placed that into the bottom cup. Now to cover it, I am using more foam that I had on hand so that we can really dummy up the bottom of it and we don't have to place so much inside of our cup when it is time to decorate. I want to make each cup look like it's overflowing with tea, so I added a piece of paper, covered it with hot glue, and I'm going to start painting it in this nice brown that I mixed up with my Folk Art Home Decor chalk paint in the color Java Brown, and also some yellow and white just to lighten it up just a bit. I do have to give it a couple of coats of paint. Now it's time for my favorite part, which is the actual decorating of each tier. Now as you see, there's another Ziploc baggie. That is another Ziploc bag full of concrete that is a little bit wet so that it had time to cure and it feels like a solid rock, just to add more weight to the bottom so it is not so top heavy. To cover that, I am using some moss that I had in my crafting stash, and I'm hot gluing it down to the plate in various places to really hide that and to add another layer of decorations to our plate. Next, I had some of these wooden mushrooms from Dollar Tree that I just painted red with little white spots, and I'm adding it to the bottom of that tier. Now, I'm not going to show you every single tier that I decorate, but they're pretty much the same. I do add some moss, I do add a mushroom here and there, and some of them have these gnomes miniatures that I purchased from Dollar General when they were on sale. It does say $1, but they were 50 cents each. After each tier is completely decorated, that completes this DIY, and I am so happy how it turned out. Once again, I am so happy how this turned out. It does stand about 4 feet tall, and I am super ecstatic that it is standing in one piece. Now, as you see here, it is on my turntable and it is not falling to one side or the other. I did test try it on different surfaces, and for the most part it does stand up straight. But like I mentioned, I am probably not going to put this outside for long periods of time. This is more of a prop and for decoration purposes, but I absolutely loved how it turned out. Here's a closer view of each one of those tiers so that you can see more of the details that I added. Once again, I did add a little decorations to each one of my teacups, and I did decorate all the way around. That way, wherever I want to place this for decorations, it doesn't matter which way it's displayed, it will be nice and decorated. Okay friends, that completes today's DIY. Like I mentioned before, I had an absolute blast making this. It came out way better than I expected, and I'm really happy how it turned out. But I would love to know what you think about this DIY down in the comment section below. And while you're down there, if you stuck it all the way through the video, please put down teacups in all caps so I know that you watched it all the way to the very end, and you guys are the real VIPs of this channel. Remember friends, if you are new here and you haven't yet subscribed, I hope you do that today. All you have to do is click on that big red subscribe button down below. It is totally free, but don't forget to click on the bell notification so that YouTube can always notify you every time I upload a new video. Plus, we would love to have you here part of our virtual art family where we do a lot of DIYs with an artistic twist. If you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for being here and clicking on today's video. I do appreciate each and every every one of you being here. But don't forget to do all of the YouTubey things, which is like this video, comment down below, and share it to at least one friend. It really does help out my channel. Thank you all so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed, and as always, I will see you in the next one.